Alright, so in the last video, which was part 1 of doing our registration and email verification, as well as a few other things we're going to be doing here, we basically got in where we had the good code. We went through all them checks. You remember back and checking to make sure passwords matched and emails matched and all that stuff. And then we wound up with our good code. And then we typed in a bunch of stuff in that last one. And I know, because it just looks like a bunch of junk if you don't know what it is, but we're going to try and explain it here and actually see it work. Basically, all your stuff, if everything is good, like this is sending your name, email, and password up. This get params. So this is what's it's sending to the database. It's also sending this, which we put in there, my test app, which I'm going to show you that. We're going to do a check for that, and if it doesn't match this, whatever you have in here, they're not going to be able to view your database or get anything returned. I think I showed you in the last video that it just comes back Invalid Platform. So it adds a little level of security in a sense. Okay, and then everything else is going to be right up here in your on response. Now, if you type this in the last video, you've seen that basically you had public void on response, string response, and then it ended with this closing curly bracket down here. Now what we put in there is we got a toast. We're toasting the response, which we can pull that out eventually or not, because actually we want our user to know, like, hey, you know what, your registration was successful, or there's an email already in the database, or that email is already in use, so we don't want them to be able to use it twice. Okay, and then here, this is going to be the last thing we do. If the response comes back and it basically says, please check your email, which is what we want it to do, that's basically saying that, okay, you're good, and they have to go over their email and they have to check and click on the link, which is going to verify their email. Or, remember the two lines, or the two pipes, are or the response contains or says email already exists. What we're going to do is we're going to take that Fragment Manager, the same thing, the same way that we go through our fragments. Let me pull it up here. So if we go down here and we go to our apps, pull up my test app. So you remember, we can actually go through our fragments. So basically, if it comes back and it has either one of those, what it's going to do, it's automatically going to kick us over to our login page. Alright, right now I've got them commented out, so let's go ahead and get on, because like I say, we don't want it to keep going to the login page, because then we lose all of our information, and for testing purposes, we want to keep our information in there so we don't have to keep typing it in there, which I'll show you here in just a few minutes. Alright, so let's go ahead and get over to our code. If you haven't done it already, we need to create a register.php file. Alright, if you don't remember how to do that, you just you basically go File, New, and then when you're saving it, you're going to go Save As. You're going to scroll down to PHP, and then you're going to name it Register. Or once again, you can name it whatever you want, but whatever you name it, you got to make sure and change it in the constants, because remember, we got it set up as register.php right now. Alright, so now we're going to require once connect to PHP, or the connect.php, because we need to get in there and and be able to access our database so we can get messages back. So we're going to do this kind of like we did the all that testing that we did when we were checking passwords and stuff. We're going to kind of go through that, and we're going to break it down bit by bit until we get to that good code that it's like, okay, this is where we're going to actually do our work at. Alright, so now that we basically got that, we're connected. I mean, we tested it out a while back, so we still should be connected, but we're going to check it again. So we're putting if it's not. Remember, we got a exclamation point in front of the connection. If you remember back here, we called it con. Alright, so if it's not connected, we're going to echo database connection failed. Else, we're going to say good connection. Kind of like good code. We're going to say good connection. Now we're going to test it out in our app, and this is how you check stuff out. So we're going to go down here, register, and see this is you're going to find this is why we didn't do that where it keeps kicking over. So alright, so we're going to type in my name, because you got to have all this in there because we've already run the checks on this. If you got something like this is so much nicer. You just, it pops right up so you can do your emails. And then let's see, for the password we'll just do capital P A S S W O R D, and then we'll do basically it would be a shift for the 1 and 2, so it'd be exclamation point, the @ symbol, and then we'll do 3, 4. We'll do that with the other one too. So password and shift 1, 2, and then we're going to do the actual 3 and 4. Go done. Now if you look down here when I click register, should get a toast. It should either come back database connection failed or good connection. As long as you get those, you know that everything in your Android app is set up right, because you are getting a response back. So I click on it, good connection. See that toast down there? Alright, so next we're going to take that check a little bit farther. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to check, and if you remember, we got the if it's not connected, database connection failed. Else, this was where the good connection is, so this is where we're going to continue our code. So if the server, basically HTTP user agent, equals my test app, and if you remember, which we're going to show you here in just a second, if you remember back here in the Android, we, in our headers down here, the user agent we set to my test app. So if it is equal to that, we're going to echo good connection, and that's where we're going to continue our code. Else, if it's not equal to that, we're going to echo invalid platform. Alright, so here's the good part, which I'm going to have to mess it up here in a minute because I'm going to show you guys some stuff. But if we go to our phone, and this is when I say, you know, right now we don't have that where that stuff disappears, so we can do all our tests and we don't have to worry about retyping it in. So I go ahead and I click register. I should get good connection back because I set it up that way in here. So we click it and good connection. Alright, now to show you that if it doesn't equal that, so let's go in here, we're just going to say, we're going to call this my test. Alright, so I deleted that. We're going to run it on the phone again. So if we go over here to alright, so as you can see, it's running down here. Got the Grado building. Alright, So we got it back. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and go over here. I'm going to type everything back in. Alright, so I got everything typed back in. So now, when I do this, because let's go back over here, because this does not match this now. So I should get Invalid Platform back. So let's go ahead and test that out. Bring this back up. We'll click Register and Invalid Platform. So see, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. I wouldn't be able to log in, create an account, or anything. And like I say, it's just a way to shut your stuff down just a little bit more. So, alright. We'll move on to the next little area. Alright, so I already went back and basically set everything back the way it was, my test app, and then reloaded it on my phone. One of the things I wanted to point out here, we talked about a little bit of post and get as far as the methods. When you're doing this, when you actually run this, let me find it here first. Okay, right up here in your string request, it says the request method is going to be post. So you don't want, because you don't want them, especially on this PHP file anyways, to be able to use a get method. So that's going to be the next thing that we check for. So over here we're going to say okay, because we've already checked that. So if it equals my test app, we're going to put the good code here. We got our bad code down here, Invalid Platform. So our next little if statement is going to go in here. So if the server, if the request method is equal to post, then we're going to echo method is post. And if not, we're going to echo improper request method. So if we go over here, and I went ahead and put everything back in my phone as well. So if we go over here and we click the register now, we should get method is post because it is a post coming from here. So we click it, method is post. Alright, so continuing on. Alright, so moving along, what we're checking now is we're checking to see if there is a name, an email, and a password all being basically coming to us. And if there is, and that's the is set. If is set post name and is set post email and is set post password. So not or, because we want them all there. So if they're all there, we're going to go ahead and create variables for them by saying, okay, the variable name is going to be equal to the post name. Variable email is going to be equal to the post email. Password is going to be equal to post password, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and encrypt it as we're assigning it. So this MD5 is a way of encrypting, and you'll see what it looks like here in a minute. And if it's all there, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go through this so that you can see that you can echo this stuff out and you can actually see what's being passed to the database. So we're going to echo name first, but if it's not there, of course, else, we're going to echo missing required fields. Now if you do your app right, you shouldn't have any missing fields. Alright, so, but you still need to put that there just in case. Alright, so, let's see. So we're going to go in here. I've already loaded that up there. We're going to go over here to my test app. And we're going to click on it. We're echoing name right now. So we're going to go hit the register. Should bring back whatever I have there, David Shaw. Okay. So if we go over here, and this is how easily you can test it, because we're uploading the file right now, but like I say, I've got some changes I'm making. So we're going to go down here. We're going to say, okay, we're going to echo the email, and we're going to scroll down here and save it. Save and close. So it's saved. Saves us from having to spend a couple seconds uploading it. So now if I click register, it should return my email. And cruisingkaraoke@yahoo.com. Alright, now here's what the encrypted password is going to look like. So if we go back over here and we go into the register, just double click on it, and we change this to password. Then scroll down, save and close. Bring up our app. Now when we click on this, you're going to see just a 32-bit value that it took the password, what I put, capital P, password, shift 1 2, and then the numbers 3 4. And this is what it's going to put in the database here. So that number right there is what that equates to. I'll click it one more time so you can see it. Alright. So we know that we're working up to that point. So we've checked. We're getting a name, email, and password. We just verified it. They're all there. Okay, now you can't see because I don't want it, you don't want anybody seeing their passwords. Just in case somebody does get into your database, you don't want them to know that stuff. And anything that you can encrypt that you don't need to pull back. Because once it's encrypted, of course, nobody's ever going to be able to figure out what it is. And the way we're going to log in is you have to encrypt it again. And basically, when they type in the same thing, it will match that encryption, which we'll get to that in login. All right, continuing on. All right, so we've run all our checks. Well, most of them anyways. We got our variables up here. And so this next part of the code, basically, which consists of everything from this first dupe right here down to closing the connection, my SQLite close down here, is basically what's going to check to make sure that the email isn't already in there. And if it is, it's gonna, if you remember, if you go back over here to where we at, right here. So if the response contains please check your email or email already exists, we're going to kick them back over to the login page, because if the email already exists, they don't need to be on that page. They need to either figure out or they can go back to the page if they need to and use a different email, but they probably already have an account. And if it's please check your email, all right, you're registered, you don't need this page anymore, you can go back to your account, log into your account, but of course you're gonna have to go check your email and all that stuff. So let's go back over here the way we got it set up. So we're going to run it's basically, I'm checking for dupes. I call it dupe. You can call it query, you can call it whatever you want, but you got to remember you can't call everything query, because then you'll have too many variables in the same thing, and we have to run a couple queries in here. And a query is just like questioning the database, like, are you there? So we're going to select everything from users, so from the database or from the table, where email, as it's named in the table, equals the email that we posted from our app. Okay, and then we're going to check it. So we're going to connect to the database, run that query, and then we're going to come back and say if the number of rows of the results here is greater than 0, we're going to echo email already exists, which, as I showed you, is going to kick them back over to the login page. Else, we're going to continue on, because if it already exists, then the registration's done, so we don't need to do any more on here. So else, we're going to generate a random code or a random number, and I'm not sure exactly what the max is. The lowest is 0 and the The max is probably somewhere in the billions, 4 billion or something like that. So we're going to generate a number in there. We're going to run another query, which I just called SQL here, to insert into the user's database. And of course, you got to have all the fields. So whatever, however many you have over here, you have to have here. So got an ID, which is we're not gonna put a value there because it's auto-generated. Got a name, which we're gonna put the name variable. Got an email, which we're gonna put the email variable. Password, which we're gonna put the password variable. And then confirmed, which I said is false. Okay, because remember it's a boolean, so boolean is either true or false, and basically a 0 or 1. So you could actually put a 0 there probably, and it'd still work. Because I believe later on down the line, I think I just put a 1 in there. And then, of course, the code, which is going to be the random generated code that we have up here. All right. Then we're going to come down here and say if the MySQL query, the connection to that, we're going to run that. So if it all works out good, there's no errors, we're going to continue on. So let me go ahead and jump down to the else first. So if for whatever reason it didn't work and it didn't insert it in there, you're going to come down here, it's going to echo an error with an SQL message. But we're hoping that that doesn't happen. So we're going to create some more variables. Because remember, we're going to send an email to these people to have them click on a link. And the first one's going to be the from. And you can put anything in here that you want. You can put from your name, but I recommend do not reply because you don't want them to reply. Because they're just going to get a message saying, congratulations, it worked or it didn't. So I put from, do not reply, at, and then, if you have it, my test, whatever your website is, but I'm just putting mytestapp.com. And 2, it's going to whatever email they sent us, so we just grab that variable. The subject is going to be mytestapp email verification. Of course, you can put anything in there that you want. And then the message is going to be, you're going to grab their name. So, for me, it'd be David Shaw. Please click on the link below to verify your email and activate your account. If the link does not work, copy it. And then I always put Control-C and paste it, Control-V. And that should be a capital V. Look at that. Into the address bar. And then here's what you got to do. You got to grab that whole link, remember? But now we're going to create, see, here's the catchy part. We're going to create another PHP file, which you can probably see up here. We haven't got into it yet. And it's going to be called email ver or email verification. You can call it anything you want, but it's up to this point, the .php, that is the file that we're going to be linking to. And what are we going to do? We're going to pass it. That little question mark is basically here comes the the stuff that we're querying for or we're asking about. And we're passing the email, which equals the email variable here, and we're passing the code, which equals the code that we sent up to the database up here. So remember, we generated this random code, we put it in the database, and we're sending it in the email link. Because when we get over here to this email verification PHP, we're going to grab both those. We're going to check to make sure that it's the right email and it matches that code. And if it does, they'll be verified. If it does not, they won't. And then we're going to reset. Well, we'll get to that when we get over there. But the whole thing is, you think about 4 billion numbers and it's only generated, for a short time. I mean, we don't have a time stipulation on it right now, but, like me, I'd go through and clean up my database at least once every couple days, and if people aren't verified, then then you delete them out of the database. So then we got all that, and like I say, basically that's a message, it's a variable, and then you come down here, we're going to mail, and then of course this is how you do this. Your first little argument is the to, comma, subj, comma, message, comma, and then the from line. And then of course, if all that worked, we're going to echo please check your email, which is going to kick them back over to the login page in the app. All right, and then of course down here we're going to close the connection. We want to make sure, because we don't want it to be, basically that it closes in here, because you would have to actually have all this work for it to close. So basically, wherever you're at in here, you want it to be, you want it to close. So make sure, let's see, where do we got to set? So outside of, basically if everything's not posted, we're just going to close the connection. Alright, so now let's go check this stuff out and make sure it works. Alright, so one of the things that I'm going to bring up is my managed database. Because right now I want to make sure that there's no records in there. So go down here to manage, phpMyAdmin. Alright, so I go down here and go to users. As you can see, there's no users in there. So now, come over here to my phone. Now when I click on this, what are we going to get? We're going to get either, we've already checked out everything else. So we should either get email already exists, which there's nothing in there, or please check your email. So let's go ahead and go over here, click on this, and it says please check your email. Alright, so if I go over here to my email, and one of the things that you got to watch, oh, there you go, it just popped up, do not reply, my test app email verification. Alright, so click on that, and right now it's not going to do anything because we haven't set up the email verification, which we're going to do in the next video. But as you see, it sent an email to me. If you look at this, there's the website. It's in the connect directory. Email ver.php. It's got a question mark because here comes the query. Email equals cruisin_karaoke@yahoo.com, and code equals, what is that, 370679834. So when we click on that, well, and let's go over here because we should check the database, because remember, it should have gone in the database. So if we go over here and refresh the database, and boom, there we go. So there's David Shaw, cruisinKaraoke@yahoo.com. There's my password, as the encrypted password. Confirm 0, meaning I am not confirmed. It'll be a 1 if I am confirmed, which is true. Alright, what did we say? 37067. Let's just see if it starts with that. So 37067. 37067. What's that? 9834. Go back, check database. 9834. So we'll get this other video and get the other file done and uploaded. we should be able to come back and click on that, and it should verify me. And in that, what we're going to do is we're going to change that to a 1 or a true, and we're going to 0 that out, because you don't want, because, you know, I mean, there's always that possibility that 2 codes could pop up, so you don't want to leave that code in there. So you just want to set it as 0. Alright, so we'll see you in the next video.